Welcome back to our Trust YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful kimono dress. It has these two welt pockets, as we have seen here, and then it has an overlap placket on the neckline, as we can see. This is a very simple tutorial and is beginner friendly. This is something you like to learn. Kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so this is a short kaftan dress and it's a kimono. The sleeve is cut together with the bodies, but you can also cut it in a way that you attach your sleeve separately. But for me, I'm going to be cutting my sleeve together with the bodies, and I don't want to have any seam on the shoulder, so I'm cutting the front and back together, which is why I'm folding my fabric into four. So to fold my fabric, I'm using Ankara fabric. So assuming this is the yard and this is the length of the fabric, so I'm going to be folding with the yard. That's the length of my dress. The length of my dress is actually 40. So on my yardage side, what I'm going to do is to measure 40 inches, and once I have 40 inches, I'm going to fold into two, which is going to serve as my front. Okay, I'll have 40 inches here for front and 40 inches here for back. 40 inches for front, 40 inches for back. Then after folding into two like this, on the length of the Ankara side, I'm just going to fold again, which is where I'm going to be taking my circumference measurement. So I hope you understand that. I'll first fold by the length, which is 40 inches. I'll measure 40 inches and fold, so that I'll have 80 inches altogether. 40 for front, 40 for back, which is going to serve as the length of my dress. And after that, I'm going to fold again into two, which is going to serve as the width. So the measurement for the width is your shoulder measurement plus your sleeve length. My shoulder measurement is 16 divided by 2 is 8, so that's 8 inches. And then I want the sleeve to stop around my elbow, which is 12 inches for me. So 8 plus 12 is 20 inches, which is what I have used to fold my fabric. So now on fold, I have a total of 20 inches here, as you can see. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now is to take my neckline measurements. So for my neck width, I want it to be 3 inches. I don't want it too wide. If you want yours wide, you can make it wider than this, but I want mine to be 3 inches. And then for the depth, for back, I want my depth to be around 1 inches. And then for the front, you can see that it has an overlap placket, so we are going to be working on the front separately. So what I'm going to do now is just to mark out my back neckline so that I can remove it. Remember, we are folding the front and back together, and I don't want us to get it confused. Okay, so after taking my neckline measurement, I'm going to go to the side. So on the side here, I'm just going to take my sleeve opening. It's on my elbow, but you don't want it too tight. Okay, so I'm taking that measurement loosely. As you can see, I have 16 inches there. 16 divided by 2 is 8 inches. So from the shoulder, I'm marking 8 inches, and then I'm adding some allowance of 1 inch to it, so I have 9 inches there. So on that 9 inches, I'm going to make like a straight line. That's where I'm going to take my bust measurement so that I can shape this dress. Okay, so here the next measurement I'm going to be taking is my waist measurement. My waist is 16 inches. So from my shoulder, I'm going to measure the 16 inches, and then I'm going to take my hip line measurement as well. My hip line is 26 inches, so I'm marking the 26 inches as well, and then I'm going to make all of this into a straight line. So here on the opening here, I'm going to mark my bust measurements. My bust is 44, divided by 4 is 11. So I don't want this to be tightly fitted. I want it to really loose, so I'm going to be adding 1 inch extra to that as is, and that's going to leave me with 12. But be reminded that this is folded into 4, so if you're adding 1 inch, that's multiplied by 4. That's like adding 4 inches extra, which is what I want. So you should adjust yours accordingly. So here I'm going to mark the 12 inches, and then I'm going to mark 1.5 inches extra as seam allowance, or 1 inch is okay for our seam allowance. Okay, so this is my bust. So here I'm going to take my waist measurement. My actual waist measurement is 36 inches, divided by 4 is 9. Okay, so because I don't have a flat tummy, I don't want it too tight, so I'm going to be adding, I think, 1 inch to that as well, and that's going to leave me with 10 inches. So here I'm going to mark 10 inches, okay, or 10.25. I don't want it tight at all. And then I'm going to add my seam allowance to that as well. So I'll connect my bust to my waist. Okay, so let's move to our hip line. So on the hip line here, I'm going to take my hip measurements. My hip measurement is actually 46. 46 divided by 4 is 11.5. But if you look at the thumbnail, the design has like an hip illusion, so it has like extra hips. Okay, so for that I'm going to be adding 1.5 inches extra to that. So my actual hip is 11.5 inches. So if I'm adding 1.5 to that, that's going to leave me with 13 inches. So here I'm going to mark the 13 inches. If you don't want to have that design, that illusion, you can just leave yours as it is. And then I'm going to add my seam allowance to that as well. So from there, using my curve ruler, I'm going to draw my curve. So I want to get a good curve so that it can show the design that I want very well. So now from my hip waist, you can see. So if you want yours to be more pronounced, all you just need to do is to add more to your hip measurement. So I want this part to be really nice because I don't want it to be looking funny. Okay, so after that, this measurement that I have here, I'm just going to take it straight to my hem. So if you want to make an hairline, all you just need to do from your waistline is just to take it down. You can add 4 or 5 inches to your hip measurements, but because of the design that I'm going for, I'm just going to follow it like I have it here. So this 14 inches or so that I have here, I'm going to measure it on the hem as well, and then I'm going to make a straight line with it. So after this, now the next thing is to cut out this pattern that we have here. So before we cut it out on our arm area, you can see how sharp it is. You don't want it too sharp here, so I'm just going to use my free hand to blend it in with my curve that I have coming from my waistline here. Okay, so you can see how I blend it in. So I'll go ahead and cut this out now. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut it out. This is my neckline. I've cut out the back neckline. That's my sleeve there, and then this is the full view. You can see how the hips is coming out. So I just like to add half an inch all around it again because I don't want this too tight at all. So you can see the contour that we have there. So like I said, if you want yours to be more pronounced, you just add more to your hip measurement so that it will be more obvious. So this is what I have, and I've placed the notch on the shoulder so that it can guide me. So what I'm going to do now is to separate my front from my back by just opening it up. Remember, we did not cut it out separately, so I'm just going to open it up so that my back and front is going to be separate. Then I can now cut my front neckline. So I have folded it now. The next thing is to take my back neckline measurement. So I want my placket to stop around my waistline. Yours can stop anywhere. It can stop on your under bust, on your bust point, on your chest line, but for me, I want it to stop on my waistline, which is 16 inches. So I'm just going to extend this line so that it can serve as a guide for me. Okay, so the placket that I'm working with, I want the placket to be 2 inches in total, and it's going to overlap on each other, which means I'm going to have to divide that 2 inches by 2. Okay, so I have 1 inch here. I'm just going to mark the 1 inch that I have on this hem where my placket is going to stop. So I'm marking the 1 inch there. Okay, so after that, I'm going to shape this. So I'm going to shape it. Remember, I already took my 3 inches as my neck width. Okay, so for a guide, you can just mark like 6.5 or 6 inches here. That's the amount of opening. That's the part that is going to be opened, and then I'm just going to connect like that. So I just want this to be like a guide for me. So now I'm going to connect it to meet what I have here. So you can see I am placing my ruler. Okay, so I'm just placing it like this, and then I'm going to connect it to this. So I don't want it to have any sharp edge so that my placket is not going to be looking funny. by the time I finish sewing it. I don't want it to be packing at any point. So you can see how I have drawn my curve. So if you want yours to be more opened, okay, which is why I said this can be a guide. So I want it to be a little opened on this part, so I'm just going to make it like I'm drawing a V shape on this part, or I'm going to blend everything together. So now after placing my curve like this, you can see now that it is a bit opened here. So I'm just going to come back here now and then blend it with the one that is going to the waistline. So now I have it more opened here, and then from here it just goes down. Okay, so now I'm not going to be cutting on this line exactly, because I'm going to be making like an incision here. Okay, this is how I'm going to be cutting this part. So I'm just going to cut on 1/2 inch all round, and that's going to be the allowance that I'm going to be using to sew. I'll just blend this in around somewhere here. Okay, so to cut now, like I said, I'm not going to be cutting on this 16 inches as well. I'll leave like 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm cutting like this, and then I'm going to cut like a sharp corner. Okay, just like we cut for our placket. Okay, you can see before I start cutting. Okay, so this 1/2 inch that I'm leaving, I'm just going to blend it in somewhere around here so that I can match up with my back neckline. Okay, so now this is the shape that I have for my front neckline, and I'm going to open it up so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so now this is what I have, and then this is the sharp corner that I cut out, so you can see. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to measure around all of this for my placket. Okay, so by the time you measure this opening part here, it's going to measure the 2 inches that we're going to be working with for our placket. So you can see we have 2 inches there. So now I'm going to measure around all of this now so that I can get the length that I need for my placket. So after measuring around all of it, all you just need to do is to go ahead and cut out that length for your placket, and then the width is going to be the 2 inches that we're going to be using for the placket on fold, and that's going to leave us with 4 inches. Then you will need 1/2 inch allowance to sew on both sides, so that's 5 inches and 2.5 inches on fold. Okay, so I'm using this plain lilac fabric, and as you can see, I have gone ahead to iron it down. Okay, so I have 2 inches here, and when it's opened up, you can see that I've ironed in 1/2 inch on both sides for my allowance. So this fabric is not soft, so I'm going to just use it as it is. But if you're working with a fabric that is not so strong like this, you can go ahead and add your interfacing to this. So now to sew this, what I'm going to do now is to open it up. So I'm just going to sew it the simplest way I know you can. Okay, I'm trying to simplify this as much as possible. So now I'm going to leave like 2 inches, okay, before I start sewing, and I included that in my measurement as well. I'm going to put this, you can see, that's why you have to cut it in this way so that you have this part opened up like this. So now this part, now I'm going to just put it in between my allowances like this. Okay, you can see I'm just embedding it so that it can be neatly finished. So after putting it, you can see now there is no packing. It has to be this straight once you cut it that way. So after putting it like this, I'm just going to fold this over it, and then I'm going to sew all round just like that. So I have sewn it round now, as you can see, and you can see now that the way we just put this inside, it just makes everything neat. Okay, so this is the back and this is the other side. Okay, so now the next thing now is to just fold it over. So like I said, it's going to overlap. You can see that it's overlapping on each other. So this part now, I'm just going to tuck it in. This one I'm going to tuck it in, then after tucking it in, you can just flip it over like this, and then you just sew it down with the allowance. This Ankara 1/2 inch that you have, you can just sew it down. So I'll do that when I get to my machine, and this is what it's going to look like. And then the second one here is just going to, you're going to fold it over. So when you sew this down, this is what it's going to look like. So this other one now, I'm just going to fold it over like this, and then I'm going to cut off this excess that I have. I added to my measurement so that I don't have a shortage. So I'm just going to cut it off, and then I'm going to fold this in the fish shape form. So you can just take this now and sew it first, or I'm just going to fold mine, okay, in a very neat way, okay, anyhow you want it to look like. And then, okay, so like I was explaining, all you just need to do is to fold this like this, okay, you fold it like this, like a triangle, and then you fold the other one like that as well, and then you just place it like this, and then you sew. So I'll take it to the sewing machine and then just sew on this part. If you want, you can sew this part as well, but I'm just going to leave it since it's going to overlap. It's not going to show anything. You can just use the hemming gun to glue it together if you just want it to be together. So I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew it on this part. So after doing this, now I want to take it together on my sleeve. I'm going to be taping it with this plain fabric as well. So I'm just going to measure 2 inches, and then I'm going to sew it right side of the fabric facing the wrong side of the Ankara, and I'm going to sew it like this. So after sewing it by 1/2 inch, I'll flip it over and then top stitch, fold this and top stitch on it, so that I can hem the Ankara sleeve opening neatly as well on both sides. Okay, so I have sewn it down now. As you can see, it is sewn now, and then also on the sleeve I have gone ahead to hem it with my plain fabric. So you can see now that the sleeve is also neat both in and out. So the next thing to do now is to create our welt pocket. Okay, so I am arranging my fabric, my dress very well, so that I can know the point where I want to place this welt pocket. Okay, it's a slant welt pocket, so it's going to be starting from around the waistline area here. So, and I want the opening to be around 6 inches. So I'm just going to place my tape, okay, on this waistline area. I'm just going to come out by around 2 inches. Okay, so around 2 inches, and then I'm going to place my ruler in a slant position like this, and then I'm going to draw out the line. So I want the opening to be of this pocket to be around 6 inches. You can choose whatever opening that you want. So I have 6 inches here, so that's what I'm going to be using. So after marking it, I'm just going to place this on fold, so that I also had enough chalk so that I can show on the other side, and then I'm going to replicate what I have here on the other side as well. So after folding, I'm just trying to rub my hand there so that the chalk can show on the other side. So I can see it now on the other side is a little faint, but I'm just going to place my ruler to mark it out so that it can be obvious, just like I have it on this side. So now this is how my pocket is going to be sitting on my dress. You can do this anyhow you want. You can choose whatever shape you want. So now this video is already very long, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a video on how you can make your welt pocket. I want it to be as detailed as possible so that we can understand this very well. I'm just going to drop the link to the video in the description box down below so that we can watch it. Okay, so I have gone ahead to create my welt pocket. As you can see, I have the 2 pockets like this, and like I said, the link to create this pocket is in the description box down below. The video is very detailed. I don't want this to be too long. That was why I just put the link in the comment section. So if you don't know how to create your welt pocket, the video is very detailed and very simple to understand. Just go and watch the video. So now our dress is ready. The next thing to do is just to flip it over like this, and then you just go over to your sewing machine and sew the side with the same allowance that you left. Then after sewing the side, you just hem it on the lower part and your dress is ready. Okay, so this is our dress. You can see our placket that runs all the way from the front through the back and then back to the front, and then the shape we created with the placket. And these are our 2 welt pockets, as you can see. So you can break it out or decide not to, whichever one you want to work with is fine. And this is the full view of the dress, and then the sleeve was taped just like I explained as well. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.